What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host and DC sports fan, Ben Robertson, and on this page, we break down all the biggest headlines surrounding the Washington Wizards. So make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to drop your comments for me with any thoughts you have on this video or anything you want to hear me talk about in future episodes. I appreciate all the support here on the road to 1K, and today I want to talk about a couple of Bleacher Report articles. First off, predictions for this upcoming NBA season. Then one trade idea I've seen thrown out by Bleacher Report. Now, I will say it was talking about another team, but I wouldn't mind the Wizards kind of stealing this deal. Then we'll chat about most improved player award potential on this Wizards roster. And lastly, with being now just less than a week away from Wizards preseason basketball, would love to know your biggest questions here in this next week or so before the preseason gets started. Again, guys, appreciate all the support here on the page and want to jump right in here today. Bleacher Report has released record predictions for every NBA team. The Wizards predicted to win 19 games, one game better than last season. It would be the third worst record in the league, just in front of Brooklyn and Utah. And I realize I don't want to start here on too sour of a note, but it is kind of reasonable from Bleacher Report, of course, looking at the team from a more national perspective, not watching them nightly, not maybe tracking this rebuild, the offseason, as closely as we all are. But everyone in the organization has been careful, Will Dawkins especially, to not maybe put firm win totals or firm markers he's looking for this year in terms of projections when he's been asked about expectations. However, he has been pretty open and honest about saying he wants to see progress. He wants to see players begin to separate themselves in terms of this young core, really show who's here to stay, who's really part of the core long term. Now, my take kind of on the win total is that I would love to see the team get to somewhere around 20 to 25 wins for the season. I realize holding on to next year's first round pick, that top eight, holding on to that top eight draft pick is a huge deal, but it just feels like there is some legit talent right now on this roster. I realize there's maybe some kind of intentional weak spots that maybe haven't been filled when you look at maybe inside size, rebounding. Again, I think part of that is trying to give Alex Sarr just kind of a full runway to work with and really figure out what he is as a big in the NBA this year. But again, some maybe intentional gaps there. So I don't know if the record, again, the team wants to hold on to that top eight pick. The record isn't going to explode. I know Cam Whitmore has said, hey, I wouldn't mind getting in the play. And I'm not really sure I see that coming, but I do want to see at least a little bit of progress on the court. And again, I've said on the page before, I know this sounds weird, but really best case scenario for the Wizards this year is that they lose a bunch of close games. The team is getting valuable experience where they're playing hard, competing. But again, we want to hold on to that top eight draft pick. And I want to move on and kind of chat about another Bleacher Report article I've seen and how it pertains to the Wizards. They've recently dropped an interesting trade idea, and there's some rumblings down in Miami that they could maybe soon hit that full reset button that the Heat have kind of avoided doing for so long. That full teardown, really, that we've seen here in DC. Miami really has not wanted to go in that direction, but some are wondering if they maybe take that step here soon. And what that would mean is putting a guy like Bam Adebayo on the trade market. I've seen, again, here from Bleacher Report, that they think our rivals down in the Carolinas, Charlotte, should go after Bam. They think it would kind of be a player that would really solidify their rebuild and maybe put them back into NBA contention. Well, my take on this is, why let Charlotte steal a great player, especially when we can maybe offer a similar type package for Bam Adebayo? Here's the trade suggestion from Bleacher Report. Hornets receive Bam while trading Miles Bridges, Concaniple, a 2027 first round pick that is previously the Heat, so the Heat would get their pick back in that deal. Another 2027 first rounder with a top two protection, a 2028 first rounder, top four protected, and 2029 and 2030 pick swaps. So what the Hornets do have a leg up here is picks in terms of the immediate future. Again, they hold Miami's 2027 first round pick. So if the Heat are trying to rebuild, getting that back would be a big thing. However, I do think that the Wizards have plenty of draft capital to offer maybe moving forward. It's not quite as immediate, but it is still there, waiting in the wings. Washington outright owns their 2027 and 2029 first rounders. They're sort of pick swap rights. There's a pick swap situation in 2028. And then there's plenty of deals, in 2029 and beyond, or plenty of picks that the team has rights to in 2029 and beyond. And I realize that seems like a long way away, but in this trade suggestion with the Hornets, 2029 and 2030 pick swaps were included. So I will say, if the Wizards owned outright their first round pick next year, just moving forward, it feels like there would be a little bit more flexibility. Not only with the record this year, it wouldn't be so important to obviously try to hold on to that top 8 pick, but because has that top 8 protection, the Wizards will keep it if it ends up in that spot. But if it the Knicks officially own the rights to that selection. So I feel like the Hornets, maybe in terms of picks, have maybe a slight leg up in this deal. However, Washington has a bunch of young players moving forward that could be included. And I know that makes you a little bit nervous. And we love so many of these young guys in this young core, want to see them develop, want to see them grow. But the reality is somebody is eventually going to get traded in this rebuild. Not everybody is going to see things all the way through. Even, Bilal Coulibaly, Cam Whitmore, as soon as next year, heading into year 3, right? Extension talk coming up after this season, and could be headed towards restricted free agency the year after that. Eventually, somebody is going to get moved, just the reality of it. So I know that maybe might cause some to sort of balk. But if you're going to go land a star player like a Bam, it's going to probably come at the cost of one of those young pieces. Really just interested to see kind of how that projects moving forward, how things shake out there. I've talked a lot about CJ McCollum trade possibilities this upcoming season, and I think that's fair to look at because, again, a lot of us have the expectation that CJ McCollum might get moved. But after this year, and even maybe, as this season approaches the trade deadline, Washington is looking to turn this rebuild around and get back into NBA contention, get back into competing in the standings, and that will mean taking a big swing on a player like a Bam. So would love to know your interest in that down below. I want to continue moving on here and continue looking ahead at this upcoming NBA season. Talk about the Most Improved Player award. A lot of chatter that there could be some Wizards in serious contention for that honor. The biggest name I've seen you guys throwing out there is a Keyshawn George. After all the progress it feels like he's made this offseason, could feel like a big year 2 incoming for Keyshawn. I really think there's a whole bunch of options here, contenders really on the Wizards lineup for that award. Again, you think of Keyshawn George, you think of Cam Whitmore. He's obviously flashed potential, huge potential over his first 2 seasons. A lot of people feeling like maybe this could be an opportunity for him to break out. I'd put even Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr, and I know they're sort of entering the year with a little bit of injury stuff, but I would even put them kind of with an outside shot to land those awards. I realize that sometimes just with the team's record, it can be harder to get national attention for some of those honors, but I definitely think we should be expecting a lot of these young Wizards to make big time progress in years 2 or year 3. But the last thing I kind of want to chat about here today is really ask you guys is, what are your biggest questions really in this next week or so before Wizards preseason gets underway? Of course, getting started this upcoming Sunday, October 12th, against the Toronto Raptors. We're going to kind of preview that action or maybe that incoming action all week long. So would love to know kind of your thoughts, your, again, biggest question marks heading into the preseason. I'll keep you posted on everything Wizards related right here on the page. So make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to drop your comments as well. I appreciate all the support here on the road to 1K. And thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.